Last time we talked about the marketing mix with an initial orientation toward the product and the price. Today we're going to spend some time talking about promotion and place. Begins with promotion, and it's thinking about what are we going to do to promote our product, advertising inclusive. What's public relations? What's PR?
Isn't that how you communicate and are perceived by the public?
Okay, it's how you relate to the public. So tell me more.
The things I know philanthropy, it's part of it, but more
It's to manage the company's image, so to make sure that it's
okay, it's an element of company image and management. What influences our view of a company's image?
If the CEO or a founder does something wrong or stupid.
How do you know if they did something wrong? Press. So advertising we pay for. Advertising we as entrepreneurs, we as companies pay for. It says exactly what we want to say. It looks exactly how we want to look. We pick the picture. We pick the font. We pick the words. What happens when you have an article written about you by a reporter?
Well, some of the consumers are going to begin to judge you based off of that article.
But what control do you have? Not much. Not much. But what's it do when a positive article comes out about you?
It could potentially boost your sales.
Could boost your sales and boost your reputation. So one of the companies I may have mentioned was this nonprofit that did online career development e-mentoring for high school students. So if you wanted to be an architect, if you wanted to be a zoologist, if you did not know an architecture or a zoologist, there was a platform you could go to and find people that we had screened and filtered and had gotten enrolled via company or university partnerships that we had, so that you could ask some questions and have some one-on-one advising regarding that career in architecture. Late 90s, this was a pretty novel concept, and so we had coverage in the New York Times, in the London Evening Standard, on MSNBC. How big is this company that's getting this coverage? Not that big. Two guys in an apartment that had full-time day jobs that were running this company nights and weekends. But what do you think when you read about a company in the New York Times? Feels big. When you see a company profiled on MSNBC, feels big. What's that cost? Nothing. If you want to run a one-day, one-time, black and white ad in the Wall Street Journal, the last time I looked at it, it was about $120,000.
Anywhere in the journal?
One day, one time, one page, 120 grand. Article, free. So in that way, again, don't overlook this element of press and this element of newspapers and magazines and things like that. And reporters are often looking for things interesting to write about. So you can pitch stories, you can contact writers, you can try and make a connection to tell them about what you're doing. And if they think it's interesting, they may write about it. If they don't, they won't. And what they write is what gets published. You don't have a lot of control over it. But it is free. And it also is often viewed as more authentic than an ad. And so in that way, again, think about these elements. You also, these days, do all the online stuff. You have the Facebook groups. You have the Twitter accounts. You have your Pinterest and your LinkedIn. and your Google Plus and all these other things for your brand and for your company. To the point that once upon a time, before you would start to name a product or name a company, you would check to see, is the domain available? If I want to call my product Great Product, I would see, is greatproduct.com available? And I would still advise you to do that. But people also have gone forward to look to see, is the Facebook account available? Is the Twitter account available? Is the Pinterest account available? So in that way, can I get all of the branding, all of the naming across all of these platforms? What happens if you can't? What happens if those are in some fashion taken? If your .com is taken, if your Facebook is taken for the name you want, you can buy them, and there's some expense to that, depending on what it is. Typically, the seller thinks it's worth a whole lot more than you think it's worth. What's your other alternative?
Switching extensions.
You can have different, I'm going to be .rt or .net, one thing or another. I generally advise against that. I think it confuses people. And you probably aren't married to your name in any significant sense. Meaning that you probably made a little investment in it. Hopefully you haven't spent money to trademark it. In the beginning, you haven't started selling product. So what do? You change your name. So I would find the name that works. And so that's a challenge for you as well. When you're presenting, you should have a company name. And I would find the name that's available as a .com. And it's tricky to do the naming and challenging. And then if it's taken, discouraging, because then you have to come up with something else. But reconcile that that happens. And what you also do beyond this Facebook and the LinkedIns and all of those is pending your product, you might have some level of paid advertising. And for a number of you, something on Google or other search engine might make sense. And you pay for these in an auction format. So anyone can sign up on Google to advertise your site. And you get those advertisements in the yellow in the center, as we've talked about previously, or on the right-hand side. So if you want to start a company that's going to be in the video camcorder business, and whenever a video camcorder is searched, you want to appear in one of these sponsored sections, and all of these as well. And there's a fee for that. And it's typically per click. Meaning that if you were to load this site and click on the Walmart link, Walmart just paid Google for that click. A few years ago, one of the more expensive words was poker. It was about $9 a click. Meaning that if we searched on poker, and we clicked on a link, and we clicked on the top link, the company that was sponsoring that link, the site that we arrived at, would pay Google $9.
Why wouldn't Google just search that like that?
That's right.
So there's such a thing called click fraud that advertisers are concerned about, that companies are concerned about. Of, well, if I'm Google, would I just hire up a bunch of people to click on poker all day long and just watch the money come in again? The element of fraud associated with that, and when you pay an advertiser to do something, and they do something that's obviously not in the spirit of what you're paying them to do, could be litigated, and Google would likely get sued, and Google would likely lose. But why or who would pay $9 to get one click to their website for people that searched on poker?
There's a good chance that people searching it might be gamblers who might be there.
It was the online gaming companies. It wasn't people trying to sell poker chips or playing cards. They'd done the math, and through an auction format, and again, all of these prices are determined by auction. Whoever pays the most gets the top link. Whoever pays the next most gets the next top, and it goes down from there. They had done the calculations that we'll pay $9 because on average, we're going to make a profit on X% of the people that come to our site are going to enroll and engage in online gaming and lose X amount of money. And the math makes sense for us to pay $9 to get that person on our website. And you have to do similar math as you're thinking about your product and what it is you want to sell. And small companies and big companies do it alike. We do a level of executive training, not for credit, at the university. Meaning you pay a few $1,000s and you come in for a week or two and you participate in some workshop and you may get some certificate. Executive education, we could not rationalize paying what that cost for our workshop because a lot of MBA programs were sponsoring and competing for that phrase. MBA program might cost $50,000, might cost $100,000. So if you can make $100,000 if you get someone, and we were only making $3,000, then we were just non-competitive. The math didn't make sense for us to pay for that traffic for $3,000 when our competitor could make $100,000 with that same traffic. So that too dictates kind of the phrasing and the words that you can use. What are competitors willing to pay? What's the alternative? If I don't have my $9 to pay for every click, what's my alternative?
That is the very
I aim for the natural results. I do search engine optimization, which means that of all the sites that Google indexes online, I want mine to come back at the top. Is that an easy thing to do? Oh, that's a tricky thing to do. There are a number of companies I know that pay people $5,000 a month just to try and keep their search engine results high. Why do they pay $5,000 a month for somebody to keep their search engine results high?
Cheaper than paying.
Because they may have done the math, and it's a lot cheaper than paying for advertising. Now, advertising is guaranteed. If you pay the most, you will be above Walmart. You will be above Best Buy. But you may still lose money because you're paying a whole lot for that.
I don't know about other people, but I generally tend to avoid the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like not,
And there's some, right, and there's some rationale too that people are wise to the sponsored ads and instead skip those and try and click on the natural returns. And you can find stats that speak to that. So you might also think that having a natural return that's not paid ad is a better result for you, and your clicks might be higher. I do the Facebook groups and all these other things to try and drive traffic to my site. I may pay for print ads, pending your product. I might do $120,000 Wall Street Journal. I might do magazine. I might do newspaper. I might do online. I may do direct mail. Does direct mail work?
Sometimes.
yes.
No,
Do you get a lot of direct mail?
Throw it all in.
Yes.
Colleges, yeah.
Why do you think you get a lot of direct mail?
Because I took an SAT.
Because it works. It is very cheap, meaning that the response rates can be very low, but the results can still be positive overall. And if you want to, find someone very specific to something that you're looking for, there are, I would say, relatively few ways to get access to 210 million people by geography, by age, by income, by interest. And this is one of a number of companies that are active in this space where you can go in and you can find more or less exactly what you want. So in that way, if we want to focus our business in the Washington area, if we want to target adults 25 to 29 that were born in November, that make 60 to 99,000. If we want to pick people that own homes that are worth over $1 million, there are 3 people that fit that.
Who are they?
What's that tell us about the market that we have focused on?
Huge.
Too small to do much.
November.
So in that way, let's lose November.
227.
We got 100, and maybe we don't really care
What's wrong with November?
about what their age is. We're back to 2000, and we can look at religion. We can look at ethnicity. We can do lots of things. So in that way, we can say households with children. So in that way, you might not think direct mail works, but how else are you going to find 115 people that live in Washington at this income, that own a home in excess of $1 million, and that have children in their household? How else are you going to market to them?
Do you do direct around expensive neighborhoods? No, right?
You don't have a lot of other options to reach them and only them. Now, you could pay for a billboard, and maybe they would see it. You could advertise in a magazine, and maybe they would read it. But if you want to mail something directly to them, direct mail is a pretty valuable way of doing that.
I've seen like a lot of spam email usually gets thrown away, but like if you have value in it, for example, it like people will actually open it. For example, I recently got like from Gillette, like because I'm gonna be 18 in like 6 to 7 months.
Right?
But they thought I was going to be 18 soon. For some reason, it says you're 18. Here's a free razor, and they put that in the mail, and I opened it instantly because.
Yep. Also, there's a lot of legislation, largely at the state levels, that are geared towards anti-spam laws. There are not any anti-direct mail laws that I'm familiar with. So you see that there are increasing penalties for spamming people, financial penalties for companies that send unsolicited email. But you can send people things in the mail all day long. So you still see direct mail as being a pretty popular avenue to reaching very specific audiences that are in the profile that you are trying to reach out to. So response rate's low. 1, 2, 3% maybe. But the pieces, what's it cost to mail something? What's postage cost?
Almost as little as $1 a piece.
For just a postcard? Probably.
So in the U.S., first class is less than 50 cents a piece. If you do postcards, less than that. Now, if you're going to mail a brochure and it's trifold and it's got a lot of inserts and it's oversized and it's overweight, you might pay $1, $2, $3. So naturally, it depends on what you're sending. But you'll find that for most pieces that you would mail, 80% of the cost is in the postage. To have letters or brochures or postcards printed, you're at pennies or nickels each. The print costs are very low when you do them in some degree of volume. But again, don't overlook print just because we often are conditioned for a digital age. The last piece to talk about in the marketing mix is place. And with place, we're looking at where do I sell. Flip video sold lots of places. Some online, some bricks and mortar, some electronic stores, some general purpose stores. So they were widely available. Why not only sell online? We think internet, everybody has internet access. Why not only sell online?
Some people may want to see your product in person.
People may want to see it, touch it. And this was, and again, there were different price points. I think it hovered between 100 and 200 pending the feature set that you bought. So people might want to see it, touch it, feel it. Why else might it be good to be on the store shelf versus only online?
People can find it.
People can find it if they go to the store looking for a video camera. Maybe they're not going to know that you exist. Maybe they're not going to go directly to your website, but if they are in the store shopping for something in that category, you are a contender. You are something they can see, and you are something they can buy. Why be in Walmart and Target? Why be in Kmart and Sears?
Because they're like the largest distributors.
Okay. They're big, they have lots of traffic, and they, to some extent, attract different people. Some people prefer one over the other. Some people prefer a Target to a Walmart or an Office Depot to a Staples, maybe just based on geography, what's close to them, maybe based on other elements. But again, they were in lots of places. And what we found was that they had success. They sold. The company was called Pure Digital. The product was the Flip video. And Cisco makes routers and networking equipment, other things, big firm. Based on Pure Digital selling 2 million of these little video cameras. So again, 4 or 5 of you bought them. They sold 2 million of these things. Cisco bought the company. Cisco wanted to enter the consumer electronics space. Cisco paid them $590 million.
I haven't heard of them so long.
Why did this startup, which only after being in business for a couple of years, get bought for $590 million? What's the basic reason of why you buy something?
Success.
They thought it was going to go up in value.
They thought it was going to rise. They thought that, well, they've sold 2 million, but if we buy them and we use our know-how and relationships, etc., we can scale them, and they're going to go from 2 to 4 to 8 to 20 to 100, and we're going to go global, and we're going to have a great product. And from March 9 to April 11, so in 2 years, they closed it down. We paid $590 million for something that in 2 years we threw away. Why do you do that? Why do you throw something away? There's no more value in it. people started buying these video cameras called iPhones and smartphones that arguably did the same thing. Was Cisco dumb?
No. They even
Been around a long time. Pretty successful firm. What happened?
The market changed.
Market changed. New products emerged. Consumer demand shifted away from these dedicated devices to the more integrated sole platform devices. And in that way, too, kudos to the Flip Video guys if they were able to convert their Cisco stock to cash quick enough that this didn't hurt them but so much. But again, they built a great product. You sell 2 million of something, I call that success. But it didn't stay. It didn't stay, and again, you could argue, well, should Cisco have known what was coming? Should they have known that people were going to gravitate away from that towards a single device? What could they have done? What could Cisco have done with the Flip Video as a product to survive?
Made it into a phone.
They could have done the reverse of what kind of happened here. Instead of making the concept of a phone and then adding lots of things, they could have done the opposite and added some phone capabilities to their camera. So maybe they thought about that. What else could they have done? What's this cost? $600 if you buy it outright.
1,000.
Maybe $100, $200 if you buy it part of a plan. Maybe free pending your plan and commitment. Maybe they could have competed on price. Maybe they could have got the price point down enough that they could have competed for people that didn't want or couldn't afford these. But again, iPhone not their only competitor. Who else competes? How else do people record video now?
On other phones.
It's all the other smartphones, and maybe even some of the dumb phones. You don't need you have a dumb phone? Can you record video?
I can on this one, but my mom has like a dumber phone.
Yeah, mine does.
Okay. So a lot of the newer dumb phones have video recording capability. Now you may not have necessarily the data plan so that you can post it to Facebook instantaneously, which is probably generally a good idea. But the orientation of it is that, again, market changed and they kind of got caught in the middle. To summarize our discussion of the marketing mix, it's important to first understand the customer needs and wants, and that's certainly core to your success. Market planning, as the next step, is central to entering the market and really trying to sustain that success. Also recognize that new competitors are ever present, and in that way you're building a marketing mix that's competitive now, but also something that's adaptable, that's going to be competitive in the future.